how is Bruce doing right now? It's such a loaded question. There is no treatment, there is no cure.
The world has always known Bruce Willis as the tough action star, the charming face of blockbuster movies, and the man whose voice and smile could light up the big screen. But behind the flashing lights of Hollywood and the millions of adoring fans, there was a quiet story unfolding, one that wasn't written in scripts or staged for cameras. It was a story about love, responsibility, and the kind of pain most people never see until they're living it. When Bruce Willis was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, or FTD, the world was stunned. But for his wife, Emma Heming Willis, the diagnosis wasn't just a medical fact. It was the beginning of an entirely different life. She had to shift from being a partner and mother into becoming a full-time caregiver, advocate, and
I always get this question like, does he remember you? Does he know who you are? And I'm like, yes, he doesn't have Alzheimer's, he has FTD.
Emotional anchor for their family. And in doing so, she discovered that caring for someone you love isn't just about patience. It's about survival, strength, and sacrifice. This isn't just a Hollywood story. It's a story about what it means to care for someone while you're quietly losing pieces of them every day. It's about how one woman turned heartbreak into advocacy, how she learned to protect herself while protecting her family, and how Bruce Willis's legacy may end up being far greater than even his legendary career. Before dementia, before caregiving,
he's doing the best he can do, just given the circumstances of this terrible, terrible disease.
And before the world knew how quickly everything could change, there was a love story. Emma Heming first crossed paths with Bruce Willis in a gym through mutual friends. At the time, nothing romantic happened. Their lives moved in different directions, and years passed before fate brought them together again. When they finally reconnected, it wasn't in some glamorous Hollywood setting. It was through his family. A blended family, in fact. Bruce invited Emma to spend New Year's with him, his ex-wife Demi Moore, Demi's husband at the time, and his 3 daughters. For many people, that setup would have been intimidating, maybe even a deal-breaker. But Emma decided to step out of her comfort zone. What she discovered on that trip was nothing short of life-changing. Bruce wasn't just a superstar. He was a father, a family man, and someone who navigated the complexities of modern relationships with a kind of maturity that surprised her. He could laugh with his ex-wife, raise his daughters with warmth, and create a space where Emma felt welcomed. In her words, watching Bruce with his children was like seeing a test run for the future. She hadn't grown up thinking much about whether a man would make a good father, but in Bruce, she saw a glimpse of stability, joy.
FTD is the most common form of dementia for people under the age of 60.
And devotion. He was generous not only with money, always tipping well, remembering his...
It affects the frontal and the temporal parts of your brain, so it can affect behavior, it can affect movement.
Roots in the service industry, but with his time and attention. Their romance soon became official, and Emma found herself living a life she once thought might never be hers. Marriage, children, and the white picket fence she had dreamed of, Bruce gave her that. But as their life together grew, subtle cracks began to show, and not in the way most couples experience them. At first, Emma thought they were just hitting the ordinary rough patches of marriage. Conversations with Bruce started to feel different. He wasn't remembering things they had talked about. Plans they once agreed on suddenly felt misaligned. Emma grew frustrated, sometimes even resentful. To make matters worse, Bruce's old stutter, something he had overcome decades earlier through acting, began creeping back into his speech. She brushed it off as stress, age, or maybe just a bad habit resurfacing. But deep down, she felt uneasy. The miscommunications piled up. Arguments felt endless. At one point, Emma admitted she wondered if their marriage was falling apart. She even considered divorce, not realizing that the man she thought was drifting away from her was actually being pulled into the grip of something much darker. The truth was that what looked like marital problems were early symptoms of frontotemporal dementia, a disease that chips away at a person's language, behavior, and sense of
You will be so proud of the caregiver that you have become.
self. But at the time, all Emma saw was a relationship unraveling, and all she felt was confusion. Little did she know that these were the earliest warning signs of a diagnosis that would change her life forever. Eventually, Emma decided something had to be done. She could no longer ignore the changes she saw in Bruce. With persistence, smoke and mirror conversations, and the help of doctors, Bruce underwent tests and scans. The first diagnosis came back as aphasia, a language disorder that makes communication difficult. It was frightening, but it still didn't capture the full scope of what was happening. It wasn't until later that the family received the devastating news. Bruce had frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. Unlike Alzheimer's, which primarily attacks memory, FTD strikes the parts of the brain responsible for behavior, language, and emotional control. It's less understood, more aggressive, and incredibly cruel. For Emma, hearing the doctor's words was like having the ground pulled from under her. She walked out of the office with a pamphlet, a vague warning about the progression of the disease, and very little guidance on how to handle what was ahead. The weight of that moment never left her. This wasn't just about her husband forgetting lines or struggling with speech. This was about losing him piece by piece, while still having to wake up every morning and care for their 2 young daughters. The Willis family chose to go public with the diagnosis in 2023. In their statement, they acknowledged the painful reality, but also the responsibility they felt to raise awareness. For Emma, sharing the truth was about more than just transparency. It was about finding community, removing stigma, and ensuring her children understood that hiding their father's condition in silence was never an option. Bruce Willis, the man once known for his quick wit and charismatic presence, slowly began losing the ability to speak and interact as he once did. Emma describes it as death before dying, a prolonged grief where the person you love is physically present but slipping away mentally. The condition meant Emma had to adapt daily. Conversations no longer flowed the same way. Their marriage, once full of playful banter and shared dreams, became weighed down by silence and confusion. Yet, amidst the devastation, there were moments of beauty. Emma explains that Bruce now lives completely in the present. He doesn't dwell on yesterday, nor does he worry about tomorrow. While painful for the family, it has also brought unexpected glimpses of peace, a reminder that even in the cruelest of diseases, there are fragments of humanity left to hold on to. For Emma, the hardest part wasn't just Bruce's decline. It was learning how to cope with ambiguous loss. Grieving someone who is still alive is an agony that most people can't understand until they live it. To the outside world, Bruce is still there. To Emma, he is too, but not in the same way. What many people forget is that behind every person with dementia is a caregiver fighting their own battle. Research shows that caregivers face a 63% higher risk of death compared to people their age who aren't in caregiving roles. Why? Because they pour all of their energy into someone else and often neglect their own health. Emma admits she fell into that trap. She was exhausted, irritable, and consumed by the responsibility of managing Bruce's care while also raising their daughters. She barely had time to breathe, let alone care for herself. Her stepdaughter, Scout, once told her she was more worried about Emma than about Bruce. That moment hit her like a wake-up call. She realized that if she didn't take care of herself, her daughters could end up losing both parents. It was then that Emma made one of the hardest decisions of her life. She brought in outside help. At first, she resisted, convinced it was her duty to handle everything alone. Society often pushes that expectation on spouses, that stepping back means you're failing. But when she finally accepted assistance, everything changed. having caregivers allowed her to step back into her true role as Bruce's wife. Instead of drowning in resentment and exhaustion, she could sit by his side, hold his hand, listen to music, and simply love him. That decision, she says, saved her. Through her journey, Emma has become a powerful advocate for caregivers. Her message is simple but urgent. You cannot do it alone. She emphasizes that friends and family should stop saying, "Let me know if you need anything." Instead, they should act. Bring groceries, pick up medications, help with the car. Just do the thing without waiting for permission. Caregivers are too overwhelmed to ask for help. She also urges caregivers to seek out community, whether through online groups, local associations, or disease-specific organizations. For her, the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration became a lifeline, connecting her with families who understood exactly what she was going through. And perhaps most importantly, she reminds caregivers that asking for help does not make you weak. It makes you sustainable. Without it, the journey can destroy you. With it, you can preserve your strength to keep showing up for the person you love. In a rare and touching public moment, Bruce's ex-wife, Demi Moore, spoke about watching Emma navigate this journey. Despite the unusual dynamics of their blended family, Demi praised Emma's strength, calling her dedicated, courageous, and compassionate. Her words underscored the reality that dementia doesn't just impact one person, it reshapes entire families. Demi also shared her own perspective: the importance of meeting Bruce where he is, not where people wish he still were. Together, the family has presented a united front, proving that love and respect can transcend past relationships. They've chosen to focus on what truly matters, supporting Bruce and giving him dignity, love, and presence during this stage of life. For decades, Bruce Willis entertained millions, starring in some of the most iconic films of all time. But now, his legacy is stretching far beyond Hollywood. Emma believes that if FTD eventually becomes widely recognized as the Bruce Willis disease, her husband would be proud. By putting a face to this illness, they hope to spark awareness, increase research funding, and encourage early diagnosis for countless families. She also insists that Bruce's legacy will not just be about his movies or his career. It will be about how he loved his family, how his story shaped the global conversation about dementia, and how his journey will make caregiving a more understood and supported role in society. Emma Heming Willis never expected her life to turn this way. She never expected to become the primary caregiver to one of Hollywood's most beloved stars while raising 2 young daughters. But through heartbreak, she has found resilience. Her message is one that resonates far beyond celebrity. Caregiving is not a solo act. It's a responsibility that requires love, yes, but also help, community, and self-preservation. Bruce Willis may not be the same man the world remembers from Die Hard or The Sixth Sense, but his story and Emma's courage are leaving behind something even more powerful than fame, a legacy of love, strength, and awareness that will help millions of families facing the same devastating journey. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes aren't the ones on the movie screen. They're the ones sitting quietly at home, holding the hand of the person they love and refusing to give up, no matter how painful the road ahead.